How to Embrace Your Inner Fool, the Psychology of Burnout and Archetypes. Why We Wear Masks in Adulthood, Jungian Analysis of the Fool, Breaking the Monument of Perfection, the Healing Power of Absurdity. You are quietly suffocating inside a beautifully upholstered cage of your own making. That sudden, terrifying urge to abandon everything you've built isn't a nervous breakdown. It is the violent, glorious rebellion of a soul you buried alive, and it is finally demanding to be released. Have you ever jolted awake in the dead, agonizing silence of the early morning, dragged yourself to the mirror, and realized with a sudden, suffocating terror that the face staring back at you no longer belongs to a living, breathing human being? Look closer into the glass. That is not a face. What you see is a cold, meticulously sculpted monument, a monument to relentless competence, a monument to the unforgiving, brutal demand of adulthood that requires you to be perfectly, flawlessly put together at every waking second. We are walking around as beautifully painted ghosts existing within a societal paradigm that treats a single moment of vulnerability as a fatal contagion, diagnosing our natural human uncertainty as a terminal disease. We are gasping for breath, not because there is no air, but because the airtight, impenetrable masks of perfection we have superglued to our own flesh are slowly choking us to death. Myth Erindor warmly welcomes you to this quiet sanctuary in the dark. If you have ever felt the crushing weight of this invisible mask and find solace in these words, I urge you to subscribe to the channel, as your support is the very heartbeat that gives us the strength to continue creating these deep, unvarnished journeys into the human soul. We are wandering together through what I can only describe as the hospital of serious souls. Look down the endless, sterile corridors of our modern existence. They are overflowing to the brim with individuals who are silently dying from an ailment that no medical textbook can name. Society has constructed a grand, glittering, and ultimately bloodthirsty altar, and upon it we willingly sacrifice our joy to worship the machine of the workaholic. We idolize the hyper-efficient professional, the stoic leader whose eyes never betray a single tear, the parent who impossibly holds every answer. We have been brainwashed into believing that maturity is synonymous with emotional rigor mortis. As the years bleed by the spontaneous, chaotic, and fiercely vibrant expressions of our youth begin to calcify, our faces freeze into a permanent, socially acceptable grimace of pleasant competence. This mask of adulthood was supposed to protect us, but instead it has become our most inescapable prison. Let us speak of the agonizing pain. We all share a pain so ubiquitous, so normalized, that it has become completely invisible. The corporate world clinically dismisses it as burnout, selling us the tragic lie that this exhaustion comes from answering too many emails or poorly managing a calendar. This is a profound, fatal misunderstanding. Burnout does not stem from the sheer volume of our daily tasks. Burnout is the devastating spiritual death that occurs when we systematically strangle the fool within us. Deep inside the darkest basement of your psyche, you have locked away a beautifully naive, chaotic, and joyous archetype. You have starved your inner fool in the name of professionalism, suffocated it for respectability, and beaten it into submission for the sake of social survival. When this fool is silenced, life loses all its color. We do not burn out because we are doing too much. We are disintegrating into ash because we are doing far too little of what makes our souls feel alive. To understand this disintegration, we must unflinchingly examine the very nature of the successes we have been taught to relentlessly chase. We have spent decades constructing our personal empires, laying down bricks of late nights, skipped meals, and swallowed tears, all to reach the pinnacle of what society deems a worthy existence. But when you finally stand at the top of this metaphorical mountain, what do you actually feel? I remember looking out from the summit of my own hard-won achievements and feeling a chilling, cavernous void. The corner office, the impressive title, the perfectly curated social media feed, they are nothing but glittering tombstones marking the burial site of our spontaneous selves. We have become masters of optics, meticulously directing the cinematography of our lives while completely forgetting how to actually live in the scene. Every interaction is calculated for maximum return on investment. Every hobby must be optimized into a side hustle. Every moment of rest is plagued by the agonizing guilt of unproductivity. We are starving in a massive gilded banquet hall, surrounded by the plastic fruit of material success, desperately craving a single drop of genuine, unscripted emotion. The tragedy is not that we failed to achieve our goals. The profound tragedy is that we succeeded only to realize the prize was a beautifully upholstered cage. We have traded the messy, unpredictable poetry of genuine human connection for the sterile predictability of a corporate spreadsheet. And in the quiet of the night, when the emails stop chiming and the world goes entirely dark, the silence is deafening because our souls are screaming at us, demanding to know why we traded our precious fleeting time on this earth for the mere illusion of control. We built these monuments to shelter us from the storm of human vulnerability, but we forgot to leave a door to get back out. Yet the cure to this paralyzing emptiness does not lie in yet another grand achievement, but in the terrifying act of descending back into the dark to rescue the very part of ourselves we abandoned at the foot of that mountain. We must speak of the inner fool not as a symbol of ignorance, but as the ultimate, purest manifestation of human courage. The fool is the child who paints the sky green and the grass purple without a shred of anxiety over whether it belongs in a sophisticated gallery. It is the part of your psyche that dances offbeat, laughs until it wheezes, and loves with a reckless, unprotected, and open heart. Why did we banish this beautiful, vibrant creature to the shadows? Because the fool is inherently, unapologetically vulnerable. It does not know how to defend itself against the sneers of cynics or the cold appraisals of the modern marketplace. In our desperate bid to be taken seriously by a deeply unserious world, we deem the fool a dangerous liability. We built massive fortresses of intellect and irony to ensure no one could ever see us try and fail. We convinced ourselves that if we just knew enough, achieved enough, and armored ourselves heavily enough, we could outsmart pain itself. But you cannot outsmart the human condition. In locking away the fool, we successfully numbed the pain of potential humiliation, but we simultaneously anesthetized our capacity for wonder, awe, and transcendental joy. You cannot selectively numb the soul. When you kill the capacity to look ridiculous, you slaughter the capacity to be authentically alive. We are walking around with phantom limb syndrome of the spirit, violently aching for a part of our psychological anatomy that we surgically removed in the name of growing up. But no matter how deeply we bury this untamed essence beneath heavy layers of corporate jargon and societal expectations, the repressed always returns, usually as a violent, uncontrollable fracture in our carefully constructed lives. You know exactly what this fracture feels like, even if you have never spoken its name out loud. It is the sudden, inexplicable wave of sobbing that hits you in the driver's seat of your car on a random Tuesday evening. It is the sudden, terrifying urge to walk out of a prestigious board meeting, board a plane, and never look back. Society immediately pathologizes these visceral moments, rushing to medicate them away, hastily labeling them as midlife crises or nervous breakdowns that need to be swiftly corrected so we can return to the assembly line of productivity. I urge you to look at these fractures entirely differently. This breaking point is not a malfunction. It is a divine, glorious rebellion of your starving spirit. It is the sound of the thick, suffocating plaster of your monument finally cracking under the immense pressure of the life force trapped beneath it. Falling apart is deeply terrifying because it requires us to surrender the absolute illusion of control we have bled to maintain for decades. But there is a breathtaking, devastating beauty in this destruction. When the mask of perfection shatters, it feels like dying because a false version of you is indeed dying. The imposter is dying. The hyper-efficient, emotionless drone is being violently dismantled by the sheer will of your own subconscious. The agonizing pain of this breaking is merely the pain of a seed bursting through its rigid shell in the suffocating dark, preparing to violently push its way toward the light. It is precisely within the jagged, terrifying cracks of this shattered facade that the true, unvarnished light of our humanity finally has the chance to pour in. Reclaiming your life from the ashes requires the ultimate act of rebellion. You must grant yourself the radical, terrifying permission to be a messy, flawed, and breathing organism once again. You must invite the banished inner fool back to the table, offering it a seat of honor in the quiet sanctuary of your daily existence. This does not mean abandoning all adult responsibility. It means stripping the suffocating false morality away from your daily productivity. It means looking deeply into the mirror on a chaotic morning and having the profound quiet grace to say out loud, "I do not know what I am doing." And that is entirely okay. True, undeniable freedom is found in the absolute willingness to be utterly unimpressive to the outside world. It is found in singing off-key, in failing miserably at a new endeavor without tying it to your fundamental self-worth, and in letting hot tears fall freely without rushing to wipe them away out of performative shame. When we stop exhausting our entire life force simply to hold up the suffocating monument of perfection, we suddenly have the boundless energy to simply exist. We transform from beautifully painted ghosts into scarred, vibrant, and wildly alive human beings. The world does not need any more cold monuments. It desperately needs your erratic heartbeat. It needs your trembling uncertainty, your radiant warmth, and your unpolished truth. If we can find the immense courage to finally lay down our heavy, exhausting armor and walk naked into the beautiful absurdity of our existence, we will finally realize that we were never meant to be flawless. We were only ever meant to be whole.